Shadiversity.
Greetings, I'm Shad, and I have just watched Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. And if you've been watching much of my Star Wars content, you might have heard me say that I had no intention of watching this movie, and indeed I wasn't going to. Well, clearly, my mind was changed. Purely, I guess it was the leaks that got me really interested. Like, surely some of these things can't really be happening. I wanted to confirm it with my own eyes, but also talking with some other YouTubers, you know, Mauler and the EFAP crew, they got me on board. And honestly, there was a decent number of you, my own viewers, who were really keen to hear my thoughts on it early on. So yes, I've seen it on the day of release, and here are my thoughts. Having gone into it with an open mind, ready to acknowledge it to be good if it was good, I have to say, in all honesty, it was contrived garbage of the highest order. Now, what do I mean when I say contrived? Well, I'm using this word in the sense of something artificial, convenient beyond the point of reason, something that should not have happened according to either lore, canon, or the natural flow of the plot as is, with certain character choices, certain things that are happening, certain plot points to cause conflict, and the things people do to resolve conflict. I'm going to go through each one in the spoiler section that I will announce when I'm going into it. But right now, I'm just going to give some broad observations about this film. I was so disappointed with The Last Jedi that I had lost all investment in the Disney franchise, okay? I was not interested in the characters, I didn't care where the story was going. I was ready to be entertained if it was possible, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But if any of the leaks were true, and they might not have been, I was fully prepared to acknowledge that maybe the leaks were all completely wrong. But if they were correct, there were going to be some howlers in this movie, so I went in with a notepad, even in the dark, and I wrote down every time. And honestly, it didn't take long for me to realize, oh no, there are some major problems happening here in regards to the story and plot. So I'm very glad I did, and that's why I counted them so specifically. Now, this isn't to say that there wasn't anything good in the movie. This movie honestly made me feel positive emotions twice. And I'll point out exactly what those points were in the spoiler section. It's a sad state when you can say you got somewhat, you know, invested even a little bit emotionally into a film 2 times out of the whole film. So Star Wars, what has happened to thee? If The Last Jedi killed Star Wars, this movie takes a steaming dump on its grave. But it's very interesting to compare this movie to The Last Jedi, just kind of briefly, and I'm doing this just with my broad observations about the film, because if you were to look at The Last Jedi and separate it from Star Wars canon and the pre-established lore and actions of the characters, there is less broken in that film as a result. The problem is, it is a Star Wars movie based in the Star Wars universe, and it completely betrays, you know, the legacy of what the characters achieved, and this movie does do that as well, but also betrays the characters and who they were in a very fundamental way. Yet there were enough elements in the film, if you were to, okay, divorce yourself from canon and everything like that, and to some people, they were, like some people who watched The Last Jedi, they were actually, they appreciated that it was so brave to break, you know, from certain Star Wars tropes. And look, they're perfectly entitled to believe that. So I don't want to say they're not true Star Wars fans. They are just more willing to see Star Wars change. I'm certainly of the camp that betraying character, motivation, stuff like that, or at least the character's actions were so out of character that it betrayed them. Some people say that it's justified. But anyway, I don't want to dwell too much on all of that, because if that wasn't an issue for you, right, and you weren't paying close attention to many of the plot holes and contrivances in The Last Jedi, there was enough popcorn action spectacle to make it an enjoyable film. I've even said that there were certain things that were just like, wow, the Holdo maneuver, even though it breaks canon and is ridiculous, it looked amazing. And even me, when I saw that, I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. Oh, well, then I was like, hang on, hang on. Oh, no. And also like the throne room fight scene. It is garbage, but even in my fight scene autopsy review of the throne room scene, I acknowledge at the very beginning of that video that when I was watching first in the cinemas, I wasn't paying attention. I was just ready to let it flow over me. It can be very enjoyable when you're not paying attention to the close things, like they're missing, or, you know, the people fighting are missing all their things, daggers disappearing, and just on so many levels that it was garbage. And many people say that it's the best thing of that film. Now the contrast, okay, with this film, The Rise of Skywalker, there is barely anything like that. If you were to just try and watch it as a popcorn flick, like say Transformers, okay, where the plot is nonsensical, but let's just go in and enjoy it, there's barely anything there, okay? The lightsaber fights. There is one proper lightsaber duel in this movie, and it is horribly choreographed, and it's not like fully engaged action, and it isn't drawn out with a lot of interesting movement and stuff like happening. It's disjointed, and so they engage and then they disengage, and so it was short, it was only one, and it was very poor, okay? Just from a pure enjoyment perspective for the spectacle, it had nothing on the throne room fight scene from The Last Jedi, and it is, like, in terms of the actual swordsmanship, now, if this is one of the first videos you're watching of me, I acknowledge quality when I see it, and the lightsaber duel in Revenge of the Sith is brilliant. Got a whole video fight scene autopsy when I review it. That is amazing. With all the flaws in the prequels, that is one of the best Star Wars fight scenes, lightsaber fight scenes in all the movies, but not only that, I think it's one of the best choreographed sword fighting based fight scenes in cinema history, all right? So trust me, I acknowledge things to be good when they're good. This fight scene, the lightsaber thing, it was garbage, okay, in comparison to many of the other ones. And then the space battles. This is a hallmark from the very first released Star Wars movie, New Hope. It was like, New Hope was more primarily about the space battles than it was about the lightsaber duels, right? And this movie, Rise of Skywalker, it has space battles, but they're pretty darn low quality. Like, you don't see much dogfighting happening. You do see some, but there's not a lot. It's not huge, big maneuvers happening like, you know, with Rogue One, where they ram a Star Destroyer and knock it into another Star Destroyer. It's like, that's big spectacle. You're like, wow, okay, that's cool. This, no, all right? And the big conflicts that happen, it's just inane magic with no foundation in any type of cohesive use, okay? It's just doing whatever it wants to do. And so just as a pure popcorn flick where you go to watch shiny lights, you know, explosions, moving lightsabers, fights and stuff, this movie fails even on that. And then when you go into the plot, it is such contrived garbage, it's amazing. Like, so many things contradicting, like, set up Star Wars canon, how things are meant to operate as they have been shown in previous movies. A couple of things I did enjoy. They didn't really give me any emotional kind of thing, but I had to chuckle, and I appreciate that J.J. Abrams, he actually acknowledges some of the larger plot holes from The Last Jedi and tries to fix them as best he can. Doesn't really fix them in some cases, but in several instances, there are certain things that are set up in Last Jedi are outwards contradicted by the characters in this movie. And I appreciate that, because some of the things, but then some of the other things established in that movie, not only does this movie pick up, it runs with them and doubles down on them and increases them tenfold, just making the situation even worse. And so even with the things that, you know, I'm not sure if it was specifically JJ or the writers or whoever was trying to fix with this movie, they also made certain problems that was there because of the previous movie even worse. And so that we're just at this kind of same position where we were at the beginning. One of the other positive things that I can mention about this film is that the relationship between Rey, Finn, and Poe was actually executed pretty well, okay? There's more friendly banter between them, and you actually, for me at least, you feel that they did care about each other quite a bit, and that they were interested in each other and concerned about each other and stuff like that. There is unresolved plot points, significant plot points, like, I won't say what it is, so this isn't a spoiler, but there's an interesting thing that Finn brings up with another character, and then another character asks him about about it. And so this is like hanging a lantern saying Finn has something important to say or do or to address with another character. Big lantern right here, and they don't address it. They forget about it. It's not even there by the end of the movie. It's like he had something to do and they do nothing with it. Also, C-3PO, there's actually some moments in it that he gets a legitimate chuckle, and he is not like just the annoying tag along. And he is annoying, but there are certain annoying kind of things that he does that are actually a bit like, it's a bit funny. It's something very typical that C-3PO would do or say. And so, yeah, C-3PO was done pretty well. Chewie was done really well. A lot of respect done to his character. Same with Lando, in all honesty, and Leia was also done pretty well. So, I mean, overall, the characters weren't horrible, but there was very little to be invested. Like, the main one you need to focus on, of course, is Rey. She is a main character, and in terms of her journey, Rey is so confusing and lost because it's never established why she's so invested in this fight. I mean, compare her to Luke in the original trilogy. Luke, okay, right off the bat, he hates the Empire. That's pre-established. He already wanted to join the thing. So this is a pre-established motivation. Then the Empire murder his aunt and uncle. So, all right, wow, he's got even more invested in this fight. And then his new father figure, the one that he is really attached to, who he wants to teach the ways of the Force, gets murdered by Darth Vader in front of his eyes. Wow, okay, this character has a lot, of investment in this whole thing. And then he finds out the big bad is his father. Well, I will speak more about certain relations in the spoiler section about that. Now, with Rey, for each movie, there isn't much bringing her in. Like, she had a bit of an attachment with Han. Han gets murdered in front of her. So that should make her loathe, like truly loathe, Kylo. I'll wait for spoilers, but let's just say there are problems in regards to how her relationship with Kylo is handled in this movie. Oh, big problems. In fact, I might need maybe there's more contrivances and plot holes there. Maybe there's more than 25, because that one wasn't specifically on my list. But now that I think about it, ooh, yeah. And the other problem, and this is most certainly not fixed in this movie, is that when Rey is forced with a challenge, she suddenly can overcome that challenge because of something, okay? Granted, there is actually one moment in this film where she loses. It doesn't last very long, but she does lose at one moment in this film. So, but because it's defeated ultimately by how they execute it, because it doesn't last long. And then in nearly every other time where there's a problem, it's just Rey can do it. Like, they are pulling things out of their rear end, left, right, and center in this film. But it's not just with Rey, it's with a lot of other things. And so with a character that can just do everything whenever she needs to do something because it's convenient to the plot, it's so difficult to feel invested in her and to be cheering along with her and be worried about her when she's struggling. I honestly think I cared more for every other prominent character who was shown on the screen, which doesn't include Rose Tico. Every other prominent character, Finn, Poe, C-3PO, Chewbacca, definitely, and Lando Calrissian. You care and you're more involved. For me, I was more invested in those characters than the main character. So there's something fundamentally broken with the film if it's having that result. And so these are my broad kind of views and opinions on The Last Jedi. Some of the characterization was improved upon, but there are fundamental flaws with the main character's characterization. Plot is just a complete piece of steaming crap. And there are very few enjoyable popcorn moments where you can just enjoy the spectacle. There is very little spectacle, and when there is, it's not challenged much. Spectacle is usually fun when you're engaged and it's like, yes, they're fun, and you want someone to do something, you want something to do something else. But there are large moments of spectacle in this film, and you're not invested. It's like, okay, yeah. Many of them just underperform massively, like the space battles, and especially there's only one lightsaber duel. Can you imagine in a Star Wars movie? Well, look, yes, New Hope, very few lightsaber duels, but this is a movie that's supposedly established with Force use and stuff like that, and especially what's gone before, like when you just look at the sheer brilliance of the fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith. Like, honestly, the fight, yeah, and of course you see Rey and Kylo fight in the trailers, all right? You should just call that fight scene the Battle of Baseball Bats, because that's what they're using. They're not using lightsabers, they're using bloody baseball bats. It's crap. So anyway, those are my broad overviews, summarizing it at the end. Now, I'm going to get into spoilers. And if you think this summary was long, this video is going to be long, because Oh my goodness! Sit back, get some popcorn, get ready, because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. This film, in terms of the plot, manages to defeat itself, shoot itself in the head from the opening crawl, okay? Not things happening with characters, this is the Star Wars and the crawl. The information provided in that is self-defeating to the logical validity of the plot. It is stupid beyond belief. What is announced? And remember, we're in the spoiler section now, so, okay, spoilers from here on in. If you don't want things to be spoiled, cut off now, okay? So, it's announced at the very beginning that Palpatine is alive. Now, there are of course, many people have already known this from the trailers and stuff like that. That has problems in itself, but that's actually not the thing I'm pointing to. But still, I want to talk about the fact that Palpatine back, because that just undermines the legacy that was established and fought for in the original trilogy, okay? And the stupidity of just the sheer nonsensical crap of how he could have survived from what happened to him. He was thrown down a shaft and exploded, all right? He exploded with force lightning energy or something, but there was an explosion when he was thrown down the shaft. You would assume that should have obliterated his body, but if that didn't, what about the explosion of the Death Star? You'd think that would have. And they don't explain how Palpatine survived, okay? They don't explain that he's a clone. They bring up that there's cloning, like, you know, he survived with force power, dark force powers, cloning, that's how they do it. But Palpatine, a couple of things. If Palpatine was cloned, his body wouldn't be broken beyond belief, and it's a dead corpse being animated by some, you know, mechanical thing shoved up his rear end. It's in his body, but for effect, basically, okay, and is being animated. This is a dead, rotting corpse. He's got dead, like, white glazed over eyes, okay? So, from what is being implied here, this is the same body. If Palpatine cloned himself, you'd think he would have picked a better clone than this crappy body he's left in. So, this is implying that it's the same body that was killed in Return of the Jedi. So how the heck did it survive? The flippin' Death Star exploded! So, alright, yes, that's a big problem, but the big contrivance here, the stupid thing in the crawl, is that not only is Palpatine alive, this is the thing, he announces that he is alive and is going to have revenge to the whole galaxy. He is announcing his existence to the whole galaxy, okay? I'm alive and I'm going to take my friend. This plot point right here hinges all the actions that every action the character takes is based off of a response to Palpatine doing this. So why the hell would he do that? Like, if you were an emperor, if you are any type of military strategist in any measure, why would you announce to the world that not only are you alive, but you're going to be taking your revenge? He has been preparing an army for however many years, okay, which is riddled with problems already, but because where did all the crew and people manning these ships come from? Where are the supplies going? If he's locked up, where are they growing their food? Do they have replicators? They don't have replicators. It's not. I'm gonna have an aneurysm. He announces that he's alive to the galaxy, which is the very action that enables his defeat, because it is by Kylo knowing that Palpatine is alive and Rey and the Resistance that they hunt him down and defeat him. Palpatine causes his own destruction in the opening crawl of the movie by announcing he's alive. It's just like, anyone with 2 brain cells, if they're in Palpatine's position, they would prepare all their forces and just attack, conquer everyone. Why give them warning? And now, the premise, okay, like the answer as to what Palpatine is trying to do seems to be that he wants to lure Rey to him so he can inhabit her body, overtake her. And it seems like he's just trying to do the classic strike me down, you join the dark side, and then he's like saying, I will inhabit you and all the Sith will inhabit you, and through you I will conquer the galaxy. So dumb. If it was absolutely essential that he needed Rey to launch his attack, which it wasn't, he could have launched his, you know, space, like Star Destroyers, Death Star Destroyers. They can destroy planets. There's a problem there as well, right? He could have just launched them, conquered everyone, and he didn't need to leave, you know, his animatronic corpse thing already, so that he didn't need a new body to conquer the galaxy. But if for some reason, some contrivance that he did, because plot, whatever, right? He could have sent out spies to capture. He had a lot of lackeys at his command. He calls Kylo to him to specifically tell Kylo to kill Rey. But then he wants, because see the contradictions here. Like, he tells Kylo to kill Rey, so maybe he's planning to overtake Kylo and conquer the galaxy. But when Rey approaches him, he wants to conquer Rey. So, and was he planning on inhabiting Kylo? If he wanted to inhabit Kylo, why did he send Kylo out to kill Rey? He could have inhabited Kylo. Kylo's already on the dark side. Did you see the inane, nonsensical contradictions of this plan? You can't define what Palpatine is actually trying to do, even from the very beginning. And the very action that leads to his ultimate defeat is his own action, which is explained in the opening crawl itself. The movie is broken that early on. That's a new record. So this next one isn't really contrivance. This is one of the attempts JJ was doing to try and solve the fundamental problems that The Last Jedi made. And so this is one where they try and fix it, not one of those attempts where they double down on those things and make it worse. And it's that Snoke was created by Palpatine. When Kylo, goes to Palpatine's lair, you see two Snoke heads in this kind of jar that are kind of morphed, mutated together to imply that Snoke was like made in a test tube. And so, Snoke was made directly by Palpatine. That's where it's from. Now it's explained. And I guess, so if that was Palpatine's plan, then why was he, if he sent Snoke out, why didn't he send all his other ships out? Because he had this massive fleet. He made the First Order, so then why doesn't he have full control? Because now Kylo has it, the breaking command. Anyway, so look, Snoke made by Palpatine. Okay. So in terms of the order of events, the first thing we see the heroes doing is receiving a message that they have to travel to because the message can't be sent to them. I guess that kind of makes sense, because even with the first movie, the Death Star plans couldn't be sent through message. I wonder how much, because they do send messages across, large spans of distances, to different star systems. Is there a bandwidth limit problem? But this, the message is pretty short. And so unlike the Death Star plans, which would have unfathomable amounts of information in, assumedly, this was a short message, so they couldn't transmit, maybe, tracing. But anyway, heroes go to this is the ice place, and they get a transmission from the spy in the First Order. Then they get attacked and they have to flee. And to flee, instead of just jumping to Lightspeed, the Millennium Falcon, one of the fastest, starships in the galaxy, generally was always able to just jump to Lightspeed and outrun their pursuers. It can't do that for some reason. Now, they decide it needs to do a thing called Lightspeed Skipping, where it seems to be these short Lightspeed jumps where Poe sends the Millennium Falcon into Lightspeed and it's constantly coming out in an atmosphere or near buildings, a large alien creature and stuff like that, not in the emptiness of space if it's just a random jump. Like, if you're going to do a random jump into hyperspace to come out at a random point, there is like a 0.00, a trillion zeros, basically, a trillion zeros 0.1% chance that it would come out at a planet, not empty space. If you're trying to measure the volume of space between empty space and stuff with actual matter in it, the ratio of empty space to matter is astronomical. And so the fact that it's coming out in near planets, hyperspace pathways. Lightspeed skimming, that's not exactly explained what it is. It's a thing that almost destroys the Millennium Falcon, and its regular light speed wasn't adequate enough when in every other instance it was when it could jump to light speed. So reasons, I guess. They just want Lightspeed skimming. It's cool, isn't it? This is cool. They're jumping and they're coming out in front of a monster. They jump again. They come in. It's cool. You're enjoying this, right? You're enjoying it, aren't you? Right? Please. It's dumb. No. All right, so this next part is a massive plot hole. But so what are we up to now? I think we're up to, we've done 3. And so this is going to be the 4th. I mean, if you count Palpatine coming back as a contrivance, then this is 5. First time we see Rey is literally levitating in the air. Now, there were slight indications that a Jedi could levitate them small. We see Luke, he's like half touching the ground, half not, but he's holding himself up with the Force and then he drops. So if that was the case, that's a problem that also exists in The Last Jedi, and this film as well, because at no other point, to my memory, could a Jedi levitate themselves. They could use the Force to propel themselves into larger jumps, but if you can fly with the Force, that has massive implications, okay? Because flying is or even just levitating, is really, really useful, even in a combative sense, and yet we never see it again. She's just levitating and then she's not. And she was lifting a lot of rocks as well. And she does, you know, do some small like Force kind of pushing things here and there. But there are times in the film where levitating and lifting things to the Force could have been done. She's capable of it and they don't do it. Like when they're stuck in the weird quicksandy stuff. They're sinking and I'm watching this is like, well, this shouldn't be a problem. Rey could just levitate herself and lift everyone else with the Force. And she doesn't do it. They just sink out of like, all right, okay, fine. Next big plot hole, Knights of Ren are back. We don't know where they were. We don't know what they were doing in the last film. We don't really know what their purpose were. They were only briefly mentioned in The Force Awakens, but now they're back and they're serving Kylo, yet they turn against Kylo because when Kylo eventually decides to fight the Emperor, and so then they fight him, and so we don't know what their loyalties lie or anything like that. If they're actual Force users or not, they're not using lightsabers. This is more of a contrivance because they're just back now. They're like, we mentioned them before, so we'll bring them back, but we have no idea what they're doing in the previous films and where they're from, what their purpose is, what their relation to Kylo is, and they're just there. This next one is a massive contrivance, and it's one of those times when instead of trying to fix something that was established for The Last Jedi, JJ, the writers, whoever did this, took what was established in The Last Jedi and then made it worse. So much worse. And so, remember the Force Skype that Rey and Kylo have? And Rey looks or was it Kylo, and they've got beads of water, on their hand, implying that matter can be transferred through the Force. I'm getting there is no understanding of how magic systems need to be employed effectively in story in this film. They don't understand it at all. They need limitations, they need rules, okay, and stuff like that. And if you have it that it can just do whatever, whenever, and they literally do that. I'll come to it when we come to it chronologically, where the Force can just do something because Rey can. Like, once upon a time, to learn a Force power, it took a lot of training to learn how to do it. You just couldn't pull it out of your butt and suddenly you can do it. And so that's the first thing. And the other thing is that once upon a time, there were a set defined number of Force powers. I have a video that I'll be releasing after this one called The Force is Broken. And I filmed it before even watching this movie, right? Just talking about, at its core, how the Force could be a really good, effective hard magic system, and it kind of was in the original trilogy. But now they've just thrown any type of cohesive, logical consistency out the window. And now you can teleport matter through the Force. It is not explained whether this is because of Rey and Kylo being a dyad, they're connected somehow. We can assume that it is. But Kylo wants to learn where Rey is. So he Force Skypes with her, they're talking, and he grabs the thing around her neck, pulls it off, and the thing teleports to him and is now holding it. And now I know where Rey is. Good thing that person conveniently gave her the necklace that I automatically can identify, know where it's from, or someone identifies it, because Kylo doesn't know, but someone tells him, I think. But it was pretty darn convenient that someone gave Rey that necklace so Kylo could pull it off, and it's pretty convenient that now, like before, it was just dewdrops, and now full large objects can be teleported between this Skype call. And so this is a contrivance in this point, just enabling Kylo to find out where Rey is by the use of this bullcrap. It's not a really redeeming thing about it, but it does establish a certain that, okay, now the Force can do this, and later on in the movie, they use that ability in not really the way to save the day, but to help Kylo, and I'll point that out when we come to it. So that is kind of good foreshadowing, yet the very fact that the Force is just capable of this because reasons is just dumb. But anyway, the thing why I dislike like so much where they just bring in new force powers because they can, because reasons, is that it undermines any utility you have in this magic system, the force, to use it to resolve conflict, okay? The problems that they're having, because if it had proper limitations and they work within those limitations, using the, this power in new inventive ways is like cool. And when you think about it, it's like, well, that was obvious. They should have been able to do this from the beginning because they're always shown in that it was being used in certain ways. But when they pull out completely new powers, well, that means, okay, well, what new powers are they going to use to resolve other things? Which is basically exactly what happens. Like in the conclusion of this film, several times, new force powers are just there because reasons, and they are employed so arbitrarily in the scenes like, I'll speak to it when we come to it. Number 8, and this is a howler, like massively so. The force can heal now, like that it can legitimately heal life-threatening injuries. It seems to be implied it can heal death at the end, okay? And not only is this so outside the realms in which the Force was first described in terms of its capabilities, the ways she can just do it because there's no setup, no foreshadowing, nothing that she's been training. So they're underground, they get confronted by a big worm monster that might eat them, and it's angry because it's injured, and they're in a difficult situation. Like if this is not Deus Ex Machina, nothing is, right? Rage, they might be eaten by this monster, they don't want to kill it. She could have just killed it. Angry giant creature about to devour you. You're perfectly in your right to defend yourself and kill the thing, okay? Anyway, so they don't want to kill it, and then Rage, it's injured. And Rage just puts it, she can heal it. She can just heal it instantly. No setup, no training. She can just do it. Like, what? Are you kidding me? Such a power is a massive new evolution and, discovery in what the Force can do. This is huge. And it's just pulled out of someone's rear end because there's a big worm that we don't want to kill, so we heal. It is so stupid. It's stupid in that the nature of the Force never implied it could do. And look, if you're going to say that this was, Force healing, it's done in the expanded universe, okay? So Shad, shut your trap. These are all Force, even other Force powers, teleporting things or anything, bringing back people to life. I would criticize it in those expanded universe things as well. I'm focusing strictly on what the movies, the canon, and by the way, everything else is decanonized anyway ever since Disney took it over. You define what's canon by the movies, and even if it was canon, okay, the fact that Rey just pulls it out of her rear end and she can just do it, this is insanity. And then her explanation literally contradicts how Obi-Wan describes the Force, that the Force is in all living things. It's an energy field that surrounds, binds, and puts keeps the world together. She explains that she healed the creature by transferring some of her Force energy into it, implying that it doesn't have Force energy of its own. And the Force is in all living things, and it's not naturally healing anyone just because they have the Force. And so by transferring the Force into someone, it shouldn't just heal it because the Force is already there, or even if they didn't have the Force, they have the Force, they just have the Force, the Force shouldn't be able to heal. It just... So the explanation outrightly contradicts Star Wars canon. Maybe Rey's Force energy is special. So, this next one, it's not nearly as, story, canon, world-breaking as that thing right there, but they are trying to find some ship. It was being flown by some Sith guy who was hunting, it turns out, was trying to find Rey, and then Luke was trying to find him, to find the dagger, to find where Luke knew Palpatine was back, apparently. And so there are kind of two big, plot holes wrapped into one here, is... why hasn't anyone, this planet is inhabited, there is a ship just lying on some small hill, why hasn't anyone stolen it or scavenged it? It's been lying there for ages, still got useful working droids in it, and it's just been lying there with no one touching it at all. And then this next part is a howler, then they turn it on and the bloody thing still flies. What? How convenient. They need a ship to get away because the First Order comes down on them, and it flies because it can. It's been sitting there supposedly derelict. If it could fly and this planet is inhabited, no one has ever come to this thing, say, oh look, a free ship that's perfectly operational that anyone can walk in, turn it on and fly away with, and they don't touch the thing. Number 9, the dagger. The dagger has inscribed upon it the location of a Sith holocron that will then lead to where Palpatine is hanging out. Now, why would you put it on a dagger? No, seriously, why would you inscribe that on the... Obviously, the person who had the dagger, okay, or it seems like he was the one who made the dagger, he knew the location of Palpatine. Why did he need to inscribe it on dagger? Sorry, the dagger doesn't lead to Palpatine. It leads to the holocron that will lead to Palpatine. If the guy, he obviously already knew where the holocron was. So why, for any reason, would he actually write it down on a dagger? If he's going to write it down, why doesn't he record it in some type of say? But why would you even record it if you already had that information? Palpatine's location was so important to be kept secret that you could only get these holocrons. Why would you inscribe on a dagger the location of the holocrons? And if you're going to scribe it down, why put it even on? Because why a dagger? It's stupid, okay? Like, so contrived. Why? There's no point to that apart from, it's inscribed on a dagger. Mystery. Number 11, they find the ship that this other Sith whatever guy had, who had the dagger, and they find the dagger conveniently because they sunk under it. He couldn't get all that stuff. And so there, and then Rey, she must have sensed Kylo Ren because she walks away to face him. And then Chewie walks off. We don't know why. He just walks off. And because he walks off, he gets caught by the First Order. It's like, why? Why? What reason did Chewie have to walk off? You think it'd be better just stay with the crew while they're getting the ship ready to fly off? Anyway, Rey, this isn't even the problem, okay? Number 11 is Rey. She walks off, and Kylo is there. And it's undefined exactly what Kylo's trying to do. Is he trying to kill her like the Emperor asked? Or is he trying to convert her to his side so they can fight against the Emperor, which is implied later on? But he is flying to ram her, okay? And Rey, she turns on a lightsaber. So we see this in the trailer. There's a big kind of thing happen. So, Kylo, if Rey doesn't jump out of the way, you know you're going to ram her and kill her, which would imply his intent is to kill her. So if he's trying to kill her, why doesn't he just shoot? Just shoot her. And look, she's got a lightsaber. She can deflect a couple, but just keep doing it. We've seen that Jedi who have far more experience than her can get overwhelmed with blaster bolts and then get killed. So he could have just shot her from a distance and not worry about it. Because if he has any fathomable idea, and she's beaten him more than once already, so Rey is apparently very capable at doing fancy things with that lightsaber, that flying past her, that she might actually be able to do something fancy to disable it. So why are you risking running into her like that, which ultimately she does? She jumps over, chops off the side of the thing, and he crashes, which he survives because reasons, okay? He survives in a massive crash, explosion thing, and then Kylo just walks out without a scratch on him. Maybe, did he eject? We don't see him eject, but anyway, this is painful, difficult. I'm doing it for you. 11. Force pulling a ship isn't really a big one, but they can force pull a ship. What next is the Howler, okay? So Rey thinks Chewie is caught on a ship flying away, so she uses the Force to stop her. That is some epic level Force pulling power right there, okay? Yoda, one of the most talented Jedi in existence, he strains picking up something of similar size, but Rey can do it because she's Rey, okay? But then Kylo, he pulls back, and they're pulling, tug of war with Force, and then Force lightning. Rey legitimately shoots Force lightning, a Force skill, once again, you would assume would have taken years to learn and is a very mysterious, difficult power, but she can because she's Rey. Now, admittedly, this is not used in a way to actually make her beat someone where she can pull out a power and just she wins, okay? They actually use it in an interesting way that would have been far more interesting if they doubled down upon this, but they cop out with it because the lightning shoots, makes the ship explodes, and she thinks she has killed Chewbacca. But of course, we know they're not going to have the balls to do anything like that. And honestly, I would be annoyed if they did kill off Chewbacca because they've been killing off legacy characters left, right, and center. And I feel Chewbacca actually did some legitimately useful things throughout the plot. He is a tough guy, and one of those emotional moments was with Chewbacca. The only two in the whole movie was with Chewbacca. But so, you know what would have been really interesting? Okay, instead of killing off a legacy character, what about Finn or Poe, okay? Rose Tico. What if she was joining in there? Because she's a throwaway character in this movie, she's doing nothing in the background. So if you actually want to use that character to some measure of utility, have her accompany them on the planet, then she was the one who caught in the ship, and then when Rey accidentally shoots the lightning, she legitimately kills off the main character. That would have caused great conflict. And her reaction, honestly, was well acted by Daisy Ridley, okay? She is legitimately heartbroken that she feels like she killed Chewie. That would have been some legitimately interesting and engaging character conflict for the main character. but in like the very next scene, it's showing Chewie's alive. He's fine. So this movie doesn't have balls either. You can say many things about, well, I was going to say Last Jedi, and say, well, at least it had balls, but even that movie didn't have the balls to kill off any significant... Oh, killed off Luke! I mean, kill off any of the new main characters. So Rey shooting Force lightning out of her butt, her hand, but figuratively her butt, is contrivance number 12. Plot contrivance and or plot hole number 13. So C-3PO, he could read the language, but there was something in his programming that forbade him from speaking it because it was in the Sith language. I actually don't think it would be too outside the realms of plausibility because the Sith are evil, they're inherently evil, that look, it's a little, okay, whatever, that all droids everywhere, protocol droids, whatever, are forbidden to read the Sith language. So how did Anakin know to, but actually Anakin wasn't, because I assume Anakin doesn't know the billions of forms of communication that C-3PO, so I'm assuming he just got a pre-made kind of data package that he put in C-3PO, and if that pre-made stuff, if it's already established thing that, no reading Sith language, that, you could get away with that at a stretch, okay, but the thing is, no, he can read it, he just can't speak it. Because there's even the problem with the fact that reading a language shouldn't, I don't see how it could be inherently evil, especially what if the language said, do good unto others, dark side of the Force is bad, and, feed hungry puppies. What if that was written in Sith? You wouldn't be like, that's, no reading it because it's Sith droids or whatever. So that's already a bit strange, but the contrivance that really comes in is this arbitrary thing that has we don't know, I can't see the logical through line as to why X would cause Y. And it's that for C-3PO to speak what he has read, his memory is going to be erased. Like, why? Why would it cause that? You're like, is the Sith language so evil it caused the memory? Like, why would erasing memory allow him to, like, is it the protocol that's actually preventing him from, he can already read it, preventing him from, is ingrained into his memory, and so he can't separate, but that's not really how computer programming works. But anyway, like, it's a defense mechanism that if any droid reads Sith language, they're going to become evil. Even it tells you to feed hungry puppies, you're going to become evil, so we better wipe your memory so that won't happen. It's dumb, it doesn't make sense. And it's completely thrown away. It's a useless, pointless, failed attempt at, trying to create emotional investment. C-3PO is going to lose his memory, but back up your memory. And someone, why do you back up your R2? Doesn't R2 back up your memory? I mean, first and foremost, it's strange that R2, it's never established that R2 is backing up C-3PO's memory regularly in the first place, but it doesn't seem outside of the realms of plausibility in terms of just how computers work and how saved information works, that you could back up code. And so, of course, and the answer isn't that it can't be done, it's that you can back up C-3PO's consciousness, memory, and or whatever. It's just that, for some reason, R2's backup is unreliable, so we're not going to do it. If this is truly a valued and important character, and we don't really know how much, individual personality droids have, and this does seem to imply that C-3PO isn't fully aware because they're not really fussed about C-3PO losing his memory. And once his memory is wiped, they're just like, well, now he's going to be more annoying, isn't he? They don't really care about it, so that seems to imply that droids don't have sentient self-awareness, they don't really care about it, but then Luke seems to care about R2-D2 and other things like that, so that's all undefined and a bit of a mess. But they literally establish that you can back up his memory, and they don't do it because they don't say, is it time restrictions? We don't know. R2 could have done it, but it's unreliable, so we don't care about you enough to, try and back up your memory. There's no droids. The little soccer ball one, which I can't even remember the name, is so inconsequential and pointless. He can't do it, so could he have done it? Maybe he was there, wasn't he? C-3PO doesn't matter. And so the whole reason why they are wiping his memory is this vain, disingenuous attempt to make the audience feel sad. It's like, oh, C-3PO, but then, of course, no balls. He gets his memory back. R2 does have the memory back up, and he just gives it back. So it was pointless in the end, wasn't it? Number 14. So Poe meets an old supposed friend on the planet where they go to access C-3PO's memory, and he ultimately gets wiped. And on the planet, Like, this character is introduced hating Poe to the point that she is close to blowing his brains out. He says, "You're gonna, blow my brains out." He did something. He betrayed her in some way that left her for dead. So this character legitimately hates him. Really hates him. And then, with no order of events to indicate any change in this relationship between these two characters, now the character likes him. Likes him so much that she asks Poe to go with him, or go with her. And she has something of tremendous value. And she mentions, "I've got something that can, get me off this. I can get through the hyperspace blockades, because blockades can be hyperspace can be blockaded." And she shows, and it's this round thing that now can get her past any first order blockade. Well, that's useful, isn't it? A magical chip that can just get you through anything you want. So awfully convenient. Strange that something like that would exist, because gee, you'd wonder if the First Order had anything like that. It would be a bit of a danger or a security breach that someone outside of the First Order might actually get it. That means they could get do you see why no one would logically make something like that? Just having some type of code might work, but then codes are specific to whatever area code is in place. So we find out very quickly why that is, this magical, she has this magical thing, is because they find out Chewie is alive on Kylo Ren's destroyer. He's alive, but we need to get on there, we need to fly up and get in there. Oh, how are you going to get in there? Here, so not only is it dumb that she has this thing, okay, so this is like two stupid things wrapped into one. She gives it to him. She hated Poe. She was going to blow his brains out. And now suddenly she likes him so much she's going to give him something that's worth a fortune. And so that's a complete contradiction. And it's so contrived that this thing even exists. It's only in there to explain how they're able to fly onto, Poe's ship. Because cloaking devices don't exist. Well, they do, but no one ever uses them. And now the First Order has cloaking scans, so why aren't they just doing cloaking scans? But we know that they don't do cloaking scans until they're told that there's something cloaked in their vicinity. But because it's cloaked, they never wouldn't know it's cloaked in their vicinity until someone actually tells them, like they did in The Last Jedi. And because they only do cloaking scans when they're told, they would never do a cloaking scan when a cloaking ship is actually in the presence, so they never find out. And so, anyway, that's just the stupidity with The Last Jedi things coming back. There are any number of reasons that they could have explained how they snuck onto Kylo's ship, but no, they're just given a magical chip. 14. This is going to be a long video. I'm actually going to have to skip some of these notes. I have notes that aren't egregious, plot holes or contrivances on the big list where, we're up to 14. I even have small observations, like when they're on the ship, they end up, Finn, Poe, and Chewie end up getting in a blaster fight with stormtroopers, and I actually appreciated that they eventually lose and get surrounded. And so, oh, look at that, the stormtroopers aren't being completely useless. They're pretty darn useless, having said that, but still, I like the fact that they lose. They're not executed there on the spot, of course, but they get surrounded. And then they're saved by the spy that sent the thing. And it's Hux, General Hux, the red-headed guy. If they were trying to explain why Hux is so incompetent because he was working against the First Order, that would explain his incompetence a bit, but they actually... No, because his betrayal seems to have only happened recently, where, Hux actually says he doesn't care if they lose, he just wants Kylo to lose, implying his hatred for Kylo has gotten to the point where he decides to betray the First Order and is trying to see Kylo defeated. And so that implies that this only happened recently, and his incompetence was there because he was just wholly incompetent in the first place. And because even if this did explain that he was actually trying to work against the First Order in the previous movies, and he was, betraying them from the beginning, that it is contradicted by how he's either an amazing actor, because he was truly emotionally invested in trying to kill things, and he takes actions that would legitimately kill and did kill many of the resistance and stuff like that, and so it's very inconsistent if that's the case. Another Force thing just pulled out of the butts because of reasons is the Force dyad, that Rey and Kylo are a Force dyad. Now you could say this kind of implied that, Rey's, came about as a direct result of Kylo. Snoke says something to the effect. That seems to imply that there's a connection and everything, but again, that's another thing broken in the previous movie and with this one, is that since when? Since when do Force's powers have connections between people and other, and when does the Force actually, create people? Because the Force, because what is the Force then? The Force has some type of sentience or awareness to force strong people, and if someone dark the Force always has to be in balance, which means the Force is a complete, absolute jerk, okay? That means the Force created Darth Vader to destroy the Republic because good was winning too much, and so the Force was actively working for evil because it wanted balance. Force dyad. Stupid. The Force now has no cohesive rules or structure. It's whatever is being just anything. For the services of an inane plot, and it brings Deus Ex Machina into such the forefront of this movie. You might have noticed that I'm like slowly losing my will to live. I carry through all this crap. It's too much. I'm over it now. There's so much bad stuff. Keep coming. All right, so number 17. This is a big, plot hole, contrivance, whatever. The Death Star, several large chunks of the Death Star survived impact on Endor. You do know what happens to things when they hit an atmosphere. They burn up, and even if they do survive, the impact of chunks that large, look at meteor impacts, okay, of certain sizes. Not only do they leave massive impacts and devastation when they land, the impact is so destructive that it vaporizes the meteorite, okay? There is no way in hell that the Death Star would have survived landing on Endor, the impact crater, or anything. It was destroyed. It had no thrusters to slow its descent, but large chunks of it somehow survived impact. And it's just there, sitting there. Because that's where Rey needs to go to find the holocron. So back to the dagger thing, okay? Is it Finn? He says that it's going to take days, weeks, or whatever to search through the wreckage to find where the holocron is located. And Rey's like, oh, and then she picks up and the dagger's hilt is circular. She pulls out this ruler thing and she measures it and it magically points where the holocron is. There are so many problems with that. So whoever made the dagger, okay, for such a thing to work, all right, to line up and point towards where something is going to be on a wreckage, again, the guy who made the dagger didn't need to do that in the very first place because he knew exactly where it was. And making a dagger that points to someone's location is just an open invitation for people to find out the holocron and there where Sidious is and all that. So it's just, anyway, so yes, the dagger is dumb in the first place. But now, okay, if you made it to do this, you would need to know the exact position and angle to stand in regards to the wreckage. The distance and the angle. If you are not the right distance, because of perspective, that little ruler thing is going to be pointing to the wrong location. And if you're on the wrong angle, again, you're going to be pointing to the wrong place on the Death Star. But Rey, she just so happens to be standing in the exact spot that she needs to for her to be able to line up the dagger to the Death Star and find where the room is where the holocron is. It's so stupid. That's number 18. That was number 18. We're getting to 19 now. But before we get to 18, I do have to say, because I made a whole video on how dumb Rey's double lightsaber is, well, she has the vision of the double lightsaber in the Death Star throne room, and she actually fights a little bit with the vision, and in the fight scene, the lightsaber, was this one of the only other lightsaber fights? But anyway, the evil Rey actually uses it in the double configuration part. So when I said in my video that they would have only had the thing to make the double lightsaber if they was meant to be used in that configuration, well, it's proven in the movie where they do use it in that configuration, and I mentioned the whole video is structured around how bloody dumb such a design is. And so anyway, that movie's validated because that's exactly what happens. All right, now we're on to 18, 19 we're up to. Rey has a fight with Kylo, and it's the battle of baseball bats. It's horribly choreographed, terrible sword fighting. Interestingly, Rey gets defeated. Kylo beats Rey for the first time. And then Leia dies, Kylo gets stunned, and Rey takes the opportunity and stabs him through the chest. So Rey does ultimately win. And then she heals him. Nothing is really given to indicate why she felt it was wrong to kill Kylo. Like, if she was going to kill him, she just would have killed him. If she didn't want to kill him, she wouldn't have stabbed him through the chest. I don't know. She does it, and then she heals him. That's number 18. Number 19. Kylo has a vision of his father, Han Solo. And he says it's a memory. Maybe it's a smaller one on all the lists, but I think it's still very unrealistic. if he's going to have a memory, maybe he would remember back. But no, this is like Han appearing before him, and it looks like he's fully in the flesh, but it's a memory, guys. But he's in the flesh. Then like Han is actually talking to him. And if this was an inner kind of thing where Kylo is projecting a memory of his father and preempting what his father would have said, they could have shown that that was happening far more than like a literal physical Han Solo appearing. Number 20. So this is kind of, we see it in multiple parts in the movie, but this massive army that Emperor Palpatine has. Like, where did it come from? Not only just the ships, okay, and again, like another contrivance. Now we can just fit Death Star cannons on Star Destroyers. Like, it seemed to be implied that to produce the energy needed for a weapon destructive enough to destroy a whole planet, you needed something of astronomical size like the Death Star. That was kind of the implication with the Death Star size. But now, no. Palpatine, you can just throw out a cannon, you can just destroy, like, did you see the size difference between the Death Star and Star Destroyers? The Death Star was a moon, a small moon, but a moon, okay? Especially when you see, like, Star Destroyers next to the Death Star. The size difference is astronomical. And now we're supposed to believe that a single Star Destroyer can produce the astronomical energies required to destroy a planet from a cannon housed under its hull. Just there. Where did that technology come? How were they able to do this? How were they able to be built? Where did the resources come from? Oh my goodness. And not only that, there are a lot of people in this fleet. Like there are hundreds, thousands, it looks even like thousands of Star Destroyers here, and they're fully manned. There's like one single Star Destroyer has a crew complement in the thousands last time I checked. Right? If I'm wrong, but I think it's something like that. Where did Palpatine get all these people? Were they from the Empire? So is that where the Empire went? When Palpatine, I was going to say when Palpatine died, but he didn't die. Because if he didn't die, he wasn't defeated. All that happened is that the Death Star was destroyed. The Empire was fully capable of ruling the galaxy without the Death Star. That's the whole point of the Empire Strikes Back. They lost the Death Star, the Empire is still there. If Palpatine didn't die at the end of Return of the Jedi, all they did was lose a Death Star. Why did Palpatine then just run away with the whole of his empire into this place to upgrade him into planet weapons or whatever? Because that's the implication. There's so many people there that Palpatine just left with the Empire. Why? You had a whole empire there still. You were still alive. You could have still ruled the galaxy. That's your intention in this movie. You want to rule the galaxy still. You had the galaxy. Why? What a crap. I'm losing my brain with this crap. So yeah, that's number 20. There's thousands of people there. Like when Rey confronts Palpatine, there are thousands of people in these like arena seats. Just watch. Who are they? Where did they come from? So I'm actually going to count that as two. The planet-destroying Star Destroyers, that's one, just because of the technological inconsistency of it. Where did it come from, the resource? And also just the people that's crewing it. Where did they go? Like, that's two. So that puts us up to 21. Oh... You would think that with all the ranting I've been doing so far, that it wouldn't get worse. But it really does. It really, really does. Rey is afraid of becoming evil, so she flies off to the island where Luke was at, where Luke secluded himself, and she's going to seclude herself too because she doesn't want to become evil. She feels she will if she tries to face Palpatine, and at this point she knows she's the granddaughter of Palpatine. She burns her ship and she goes to throw the lightsaber, Luke's lightsaber, into the ship, and Luke's Force Ghost appears and it literally catches the lightsaber. Force Ghosts can not only summon Force powers, okay, with just not only lightning, they can literally interact with physical things in the universe. At this point, you don't even need Rey or anyone else. Luke is able to pick up a lightsaber. If he can pick up a lightsaber, that means he should be able to use the lightsaber. Just pick up a lightsaber and go fight the First Order. Like, the Force Ghost can, and then Luke also he can use Force powers, like we've already seen the lightning. Luke actually uses the Force to pick up his X-Wing. Force Ghosts that is now basically establishing there is no limitation in the level of interactivity that Force Ghosts can have with the real world. They can shoot, they can summon lightning, they can Force levitate, so basically any Force power now, and they can interact physically with the real world. Breaks so much canon. It destroys it. Why were the Force, like, it was already bad enough with Yoda. It's like, okay, well, why doesn't Force Ghosts appear, shoot lightning? But now, why don't Force Ghosts appear and use lightsabers to kill everyone? Just pick up a gun, appear in and can Force Ghosts be killed? It's like, it would be an unstoppable thing. Like, they can pick up a lightsaber, and someone tries a lightsaber, it just goes through, but then they kill, they pick up guns. It ruins so much. That's 22. 23 is that Luke's... People... This is so frustrating. I'm not kidding. My brain is melting, okay? Luke, in the previous movie, like, everyone was complaining that Luke Force Skyped or projected himself to Kylo because he had the X-Wing there. He could have gotten his X-Wing and flown there and fought and actually done something more substantial. And the answer defenders gave to this was that the ship didn't work. It was broken and Luke was stranded there and he had no way of getting there, which is now completely contradicted by this stupid retarded movie because that ship still worked. This works. Right? Beautiful. So why didn't Luke use it in the last movie? 23, I think that one was. So here's another big bit of bullcrap. A giant fleet, Palpatine, giant fleet of ships. Okay? They should be able to conquer the galaxy pretty darn easy with it. And small fleet. So the rebels don't even have a fleet. They just got some fighter pilots and a ship or two. And so how on earth are they going to fight it? Well, luckily for them, ships, these Star Destroyers, they can't engage their shields when within a planet's gravity. When is that the case in Star Wars? When has any ship not been able to activate their shields in planet's atmosphere? In fact, I'm pretty sure we've seen shields, but they're just saying big ships like that. So maybe we don't see it directly, but it's obviously implied. It's logical sense. Of course, ships have been using their shields in planetary atmospheres, and we've been seeing Star Destroyers in planetary atmospheres. If they've been that vulnerable in planetary atmospheres, and I mean, like in Rogue One, Star Destroyer sitting above the city of Jeddah, it shouldn't have been able to engage its shield. Like, just a couple of big shots then, take it out. One fighter has been shown, once the shields are down and you get a precision shot. I mean, one fighter took down the bloody Death Star. But shields, they just don't work in planetary atmospheres. Isn't that convenient? Luckily for these rebels and stuff, because now they can actually fight them. And even if the shields doesn't work, these ships, there's so many of them and they have such destructive power. We'll get to that point. But it's such contrived bullcrap. Now that's number 24, right? Number 25, get this. The ships can't leave this place without a broadcasting navigation tower telling them how to leave. They to give coordinates, right? So they get there and they try, the whole goal is to destroy this tower. The final order, first order final, this doesn't matter by anymore. They upload the coordinates to the ship, and that ship is going to tell the other ships where to go. Since when do individual starships not have navigation? Every single one of these ships should have been able to fly out of there independently. It is stupid beyond belief that they wouldn't be able to do that. And it's even shown in the movie itself that they could get those coordinates because they upload the coordinates to one of the stupid damn ships. And then they try to say because they can't destroy the broadcasting thing in the sense of the ship, they're trying to say now that they destroy the ship, that now the other ships can't leave. They're all trapped there and the galaxy is safe. When there's nothing ever mentioned in Star Wars that these ships wouldn't be able to navigate individually out of this place. And they just throw it in there to try and give, now the rebels have it's possible that they can try and fight that they can't leave. No, this movie I think is worse than The Last Jedi now. Honestly, now that I'm going through it and really pointing out all the crap, I took the notes when I was sitting there, but now I'm seeing it in perspective, this movie is garbage tier on a whole nother level. So that was 2 right there. The 2 being that shields can't be used in planetary atmosphere and they can't navigate out of there. That's 25. Now we'll be up to 26. But on a note in between, I love that someone says, let's do the hold-on maneuver, and then, again, just taking a bit of a, dig at Last Jedi. The hold-on move is 1 in a million. So they're trying to fix it, but they don't. So that's one thing that they try and fix. Hold-on move, 1 in a million. They don't explain why, it just is. But then everything else is just so bad. All right, so now we're up to 26. Their whole plan was to destroy this navigation tower. And it's just contrived that these other ships, remember, can't leave without the navigation. But that's their plan, okay? It gets sent up to the flag, another ship. So now they need to destroy that ship. And to destroy the navigation array on that ship, they decide, they say a ground assault. No previous point where they planned to do a ground assault. The ground assault was not a part of their plan. Ground assault shouldn't have even been on their radar. So they shouldn't have been prepared for a ground assault. But now they want to do a ground assault on top of a Star Destroyer. Well, luckily for them, they brought horses with them. That's right, horses. And they try and explain it by saying, there's a ground assault. Well, jam the speeders or stop the speeders. Sir, they're not using speeders. And they're on stupid horses. They had no logical reason to bring the horse in the first place because they had no reason to predict that they would have needed a ground assault. And even if they needed to revert to a ground assault, just fly a little bit closer to the comms array and land there. You didn't need the horses to do it. There's no reason to have the horses there, logically, or even just for the structure of destroying the thing. But I guess somebody wanted to have a shot of alien space horses riding on top of a Star Destroyer. Because that's in Star Wars now. 27, and I think I mentioned this before, Palpatine says he can, his spirit can inhabit Rey, take over her body. Since when? Force. It's just, Force can do it now. The Emperor says do it. Do it. This next one, again, really ticks me off. So this is going to be we just did 27, so this is 28. Force life sucking. Palpatine. He sucks the life force out of Rey and Kylo, and that heals him. The Force can just do that. Didn't you know? And it's weird because it's implied that he was only able to do it because Rey and Kylo were a Force died thing. So he was able to do it because Kylo arrives. Kylo wasn't even there to begin with, but he arrived. And this is after Rey teleports a lightsaber to him. So remember how they kind of foreshadow that things can teleport. And so Kylo runs in unarmed and he runs into the Knights of Rey, right? And he's unarmored. Rey senses him. Good thing she has 2 lightsabers now because conveniently, Luke just gave her another one. It was Leia's. She didn't have it there. Luke, I don't know, reading this stuff. Nothing's making sense by this point. So, and yeah, she teleports it to Kylo. And it's mildly foreshadowed because matter can teleport now. But the fact that it can even teleport in the first place is just stupid beyond belief. But anyway, so that happened. And then Kylo fights his way and gets there. And because there's 2 of them, yeah, Emperor just sucks the life force and he regenerates. Why not? Force is doing everything else these days. I need to mention those 2 points where I actually felt positive emotions in this film because I kind of skipped over the chronological point where it happened. But it's when Leia dies and Chewie finds out. I felt that Chewie. And Chewie's truly heartbroken over it. You're like, so yeah, I felt something there. And the other point I felt something is similar around this point. And it was good, it was almost cool if it wasn't robbed by how stupidly it was then later executed or employed. The resistance, rebels, whatever they're called now, they're getting their butts kicked, which obviously they should be. They're outnumbered by a massive amount. And suddenly the galaxy rallies together and they come together to fight the Empire because they've had enough. And, I felt a bit, uplifted, yes, people coming together, coming in unity to fight something bad and evil. They still shouldn't have won. And this is coming into the next big pothole. So we've moved on from the Palpatine life-sucking, which was 28, I think. If the forces were mostly equal now, with all the galaxy coming together, right? These Star Destroyers you know, even though they shouldn't, it's dumb that they're capable of doing this, but it's shown that they can do this. They have the capacity to destroy a planet. We have seen the effect of one of those blasts have on a starship, okay? Doesn't matter how good the shields are on those starships, one shot from something that powerful obliterates it instantly, okay? So even if the forces are mildly equivalent at this point, Star Destroyers, these Death Star Star Destroyers, all they need to do is get off one shot each against any of these ships and they're completely wiped out. Some reason, and I can't remember if it was explained because they're close to a planetary surface or they don't have the navigation or some bullcrap like that, because if there was a reason for that, it would be utter complete bullcrap. They don't use their biggest weapon. Any one of these starships, like just one ship, aim at one of the enemy ships, each one, done. They fire once, they would have obliterated this galaxy alliance coming to defeat them. And they don't do it. Why? And even if there is a reason, it's a dumb reason because there's nothing saying why they shouldn't be, like, logically they should be able to fight these big guys. They don't. Star Destroyers, these viciously powerful, unstoppable Star Destroyers never fire back with their big weapon. They just sit there and take it and get destroyed. And not only that, okay, so yeah, that was like, that's 28. No, that's 29. Palpatine, when he heals himself, okay, he sees that it looks like the First Order is starting to get, Last Order, who cares, right? It's starting to get beaten. So he performs one of the most powerful Force feats we have ever seen. He Force lightnings the entire Galactic Alliance fleet thing. Force lightning, this girth of a skyscraper, shoots in the air, spreads out, and is taking out everyone. Okay, now it's already established Palpatine, he's supposed to be powerful, but the most powerful we saw him being was just regular Force lightning, Luke. Now, he just sucked the life force, so maybe you could get away and it would be more menacing that he has this unstoppable power. And this is the contrivance plot or whatever, right? So after he does that, he then goes to shoot Rey. Rey stops Palpatine's Force lightning, which is just being shown to be powerful enough to take out an entire galactic fleet. And she stops that with a single light. She holds up her lightsaber and stops it. Just like that. Okay, sure, fine. And then she grabs the other lightsaber and she does both and she pushes herself, and so there's no actual cool fight. This is just like, it's resolved because of magical contrivances plot. She holds it, pushes to Palpatine and Palpatine melts because reasons, okay? There's no reason to actually explain why this happens, how she's capable of doing it, she just can. And if it was Rey reflecting Palpatine's lightning energy back on him, all Palpatine needed to do was stop shooting to stop the deflection and then he wouldn't be dead. So it's either Palpatine killed himself because of sheer stupidity, or Rey killed him with the light side Force energy that she just got through Deus Ex Machina. And the previous one I missed was that, like, it looked like her and Kylo are basically dead. Kylo gets up and he just gets basically slapped away by Palpatine and he falls off a, cliff thing, whatever. Supposedly dying, right? But Rey, all the Jedi come to help her. And so this is such Deus Ex Machina. And it's the worst employment of magic in a story. This is like the classic example of the worst way magic should be used in a story. Deus Ex Machina. The character's defeated. She's broken on the ground. Now she suddenly has power because magic. And she gets up and she can block Palpatine's mega death lightning with a single lightsaber, do something. Doesn't look like it's reverses. She just walks towards the block and Palpatine melts. Because the Force now. That's what they've done with it. And after she does that, like Rey, she's got the power of all the Jedi who's ever lived in her now, and she kills Palpatine, who's got all the power of all the Sith because reasons, right? And then she dies. She forced too much. Over-forcing kills you. The movie just wants you to feel worried. She's about to, she's not going to die, but she's supposedly dying, and the reason why she's dying is dumb. Because she just has she used too much force, because Luke died when he pushed himself too much, but she had all the power of the Jedi through her, and that killed her. And so, like she's either, it looked like she died. It looked like she legitimately dies, or on the brink of death, if I was to give it some measure of credit, right? And Kylo's alive! Yay, he's alive. He got thrown off the bed, of course he's alive. And he comes back, and he heals Kylo. Kylo can heal. Doing it once was bad enough. But now Kylo pulls healing out of his butt because it's convenient in the plot. Needs to save the hero's life. So Kylo, a Dark Jedi, whatever, he can now heal. It takes no training to use these incredibly significant and powerful force powers. No training at all. He can just use them when you need it. And Kylo does. He heals her. And that kills Kylo. Kylo forced too much now. Rey, who forced healed Kylo and the worm and everything like that. But if she was dead, Kylo gave his life for her and she lived. They kiss. Kylo dies. He's dead. Hooray. Good on you, mate. And Rey lives. That's like 2 additional ones. Kylo being able to force heal, and then Kylo dying because of reasons as well. And so I think that would put us up to 34. So then the movie is coming to a close, and someone asks her name, and this is mildly foreshadowed because someone asked her name before, Rey who? She's like, I don't have a name. And so now, what is your name? She's like, Rey Skywalker. Honestly, I wouldn't have too much of a problem with, Luke's successor, who say they were the child of someone evil, they don't want to take up on the person's evil name, and they had a close connection with Luke, and they didn't treat him like a broken old man who was wrong and just fight him and, emasculate him like Rey did and stuff like that. If there was a proper relationship, stuff like that, I could actually be perfectly fine with the successor taking on the name of Skywalker. Not okay with it this way. I know Rey is not a Skywalker to me. I can see why she might want it as the character. What she went through, the character is inconsistent. We don't really know what she cared about the relationship. Did she love Kylo? I don't know. It doesn't matter now. So maybe she wants to take up mantle of Skywalker. Oh, I know this is the end, but still, I should also say another kind of dig at The Last Jedi is Luke, when he comes back as a Force ghost. Like, he says, I was wrong. Like, literally, basically, a massive indictment of what was done in The Last Jedi was wrong. Luke shouldn't have behaved that way, and he was legitimately wrong and all that stuff. And so, that was nice little dig there at The Last Jedi in this movie. And so, Rey takes her, she's Skywalker. Not to me. There are a total count that I noticed. I probably missed some, and there might even be one small that I haven't really included on the list because I tried to only go for the significant ones. 34 massive contrivances and or outright plot holes in this dumpster piece of crap of a movie. I kid you not. And on top of all those, there's so little redeeming anything in this movie. There's no fun lightsaber fights. There's no fun, space battles or anything. This movie is just trash. So, when I have said that this movie is contrived garbage of the highest order, I mean that, okay? With actual valid reasons that I've gone through right here. Holy crap. The Last Jedi killed Star Wars, and this takes a steaming dump on its grave. Retcon it, okay? This entire Disney sequel series. Retcon the whole thing, okay? Give us the Star Wars we want, and you've shown that you can sometimes do some alright-ish Star Wars. Rogue One, I enjoyed enough. Beginning of Mandalorian starts off pretty well. And so seriously, retcon it all, and you know what would be kind of fun? Like, bring back the expanded universe and stuff like that, and you've already shown that you're willing to show like Luke in his youth and stuff, and with CGI, whatever. Give us a proper sequel trilogy where it picks up right after Return of the Jedi, okay? Where it's a fight to reinstall and maintain the Republic, okay? To dig out the vestiges of the Empire and any successor that the Emperor might have had after he is actually dead. He's probably dead. Like this whole Disney series just needs to be... It's trash. It's garbage. This is the worst one out of the 3, and it is the final nail in the coffin. Anyway, crap, garbage, can't express enough. Now I think I need to lie down. Just like recover. Because it's so bad. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Hope to see you again. Till then, farewell.